no donations are allowed to be made. So Mark has to send back every book he receives after he reads it. The prison is not accountable. They are not interested in rehabilitation. You know, it's just bare bones minimum, and it's very sad because a lot of most of the guards employed there, the lower level staff, see how disorganized and chaotic and cruel the place is. Many of the good people are quitting because they can't stand it, which unfortunately leaves a lot of bad people. So, you know, it's just hard because there's nothing that can be done. It's a company that's basis,
Can you hear me?
modus operandi is to make more money, and in fact, the group that runs this facility, it's called Geo Group. Their website has the stock price on the front page. I believe it was $29 per share at the last time I checked. They just lobbied in Arizona for the anti-immigration laws, and in fact, Geo Group is just opening a massive detention center for immigrants in a number of U.S. states along the border, and particularly Arizona, where they passed that law. So these are inhumane groups. These are companies that should not exist because the only purpose for their existence is to inflict suffering and pain on others.
Okay, I think we got a caller here. Do I have somebody here, somebody on TalkShoe wants to talk to Jody? Hello?
Yeah, hi.
I can hear me.
I'm just on a conference call. I'm on a conference call, and there's a couple of people on my call. We're just listening in, but yeah, somebody here does want to ask you a question.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm waiting all day here. Come on. We've got a guest up. I don't normally use TalkShoe as a method to communicate because I got too many listeners on there that are idiots.
I'm just on Israel Grand, and it's a conference call. Yeah, I'm looking for somebody else to talk and make a question.
Ask the question. You're making too much noise here. You're making too much noise here, and if you don't ask the question quickly here, I'm hanging up and muting all of you people. Okay, you're all idiots. Goodbye.
No, I just...
Okay. I'm sorry.
I don't think it's fair to call them idiots. I think they're just having some complications there.
I'm sorry, dear. I've been doing this show on TalkShoe for the last few months, and take it from me, they're idiots. These are people out here that would get mad at you because you're talking about Mark helping some of the people in prison because they happen to be illegals. These are the people out there that have infiltrated the whole Christian identity movement and want to kill all the Mexicans, kill all the Jews, kill all the blacks, and I'm sorry, that makes them idiots in my book.
Well, I certainly don't approve of bigotry and ignorance, so you know your audience more than I do.
No, we've got other chat rooms that they just don't have the ability to butt into the conversation like that. And those people are brilliant, concerned people. It's just that one particular room that I have a problem with. And if you want to call in, folks, if you want to call in and ask a question, you know, without stuttering, without hanging up here, the number 646-915-8774. Jody, how are you holding up? I mean, believe me, I've been publishing for 20 years. I know what it takes to run a magazine. I know what it takes to run a business. And I basically consider that I failed to do that after I was left alone after a so-called accident. And again, a tip of the hat to you for being the kind of wife to stand by your man and keep everything going.
It certainly is challenging. I mean, I have to run our our store, which is a massive building with international visitors, a very successful business, but Mark is very good with running businesses, and I have never done it before, so I'm glad to say that things are still going well, and my staff have helped ensure that we do not fail Mark in keeping our place going. So, I mean, I manage over 20 employees, and we have the BC Marijuana Party Lounge where people bring their own cannabis and use volcano vaporizers, and it's a very nice place. You can look it up online. There's a lot of videos. And our store is enormous too, so having to manage that with all our staff, and it's quite a lot of work. And I run in elections, but have decided just recently that I will not be able to run in the next federal election because it will just be too much for me. I'm exhausted right now. I will not be able to physically or mentally make it through an election campaign. And I was also put in a riding for the Green Party against somebody with the Liberal Party who has been very helpful towards Mark and me. So there's too much conflict of interest with me running the campaign to get Mark home, to get him transferred, which we need the federal government's approval here. So if I run in a federal election, I believe that my criticism of the very evil policies and very backwards, dangerous way our country is headed under the conservative government, I believe if I were to criticize them openly as I would want to during an election, that they could refuse my husband's transfer. And so I've decided, with too much conflict of interest involved with running, I'm not going to do that federally. But I'm still with the Provincial Green Party, the Policing and Crime Critic, a director at large, and I just joined the Nonpartisan Association on the local level and hope to run for City Council at some point soon. But with that political activism, and then just my regular marijuana activism and running the business and trying to look after myself with Mark gone and looking after him, because being the wife of a prisoner is an extremely difficult thing to do, even for normal people with nothing else in their lives. It often leads to separation and divorce for most people who experience imprisonment. So it is challenging. I wouldn't ever leave Mark. I just know I have to make it, and I'm going to. But it's been very challenging, especially over the holidays, to not have him here. So as of late, I've been getting tired, but my job is to inspire hope in people, and even though things will continue to get worse in many ways, there is still hope for other things, and I just can't stop, because if the only options are to give up and do nothing, or to keep fighting, I have to keep fighting for myself, for my fellow man, for the sake of my country, for the sake of my world, and everybody else in it. I know I can't save the world, but unless I do something to try and help.
Well, my friend Jack Hara, who's now dead, he used to tell me that hemp can save the world, that marijuana can save the world, and I believe him. And let me ask you about another Canadian that I've had on my show before. His name is Rick Simpson. Are you familiar with Rick Simpson? Phoenix Tears.
Yes, I am familiar with him.
Now, here's I believe that Rick is now overseas somewhere. He's out of Canada and he's out of the United States, because he demonstrated and came on my show and talked about being able to cure cancer with hemp. A recent study from Harvard, they revealed that if somebody is smoking marijuana, they've got less of a chance of getting lung cancer than people that don't. And we're talking about cigarette smokers here.
Well, I have numerous studies on our website, cannabisculture.com. If you just search for anything with cancer in the tag, you'll find numerous studies that show cannabis holds curative effects for cannabis. In some cases it prevents it, in some cases it treats it. we haven't got enough research into it yet, although the U.S. federal government does, and that's why they patented cannabinoids for their anti-inflammatory and various other positive effects.
That's right. Now repeat that, but I don't think people really realize that our government, the United States government, has patented certain aspects of cannabis.
Yes.
So they got a patent or something that nobody else can grow? Now they really want to make sure you can't grow them, right?
It's just like with the Codex Alimentarius, like you said, we have powers that be that want to eliminate our natural choices of everything and force us to take medicines and pills of all kinds from various companies that are in favor of the government. Very Atlas Shrugged-esque, I think. But as for Rick Simpson, Mark and I tried to do a story on it when he first started talking about curing people's cancer, and we asked him to write an article for the magazine, and he did write an article, but he didn't include any of the methods of how he made his oil or the people that he treated or specific cases of cancer. He just went on about how it did, and he didn't back it up. So we couldn't publish the article because cannabis culture has a very high standard for everything that we print, and that just did not pass muster. He could not provide any evidence of individuals who had been cured, only people's anecdotal evidence. So without any doctors willing to say, yes, my cancer patient no longer has cancer, we couldn't take it seriously. And when he went overseas, he's been saying that he's been giving it away. Perhaps he did. I don't know. I can't say because I haven't been involved at all with him. He was on the other side of the country. But I've had people message me and say that they know him, and he was just a hash oil dealer, and he sold it. He made people buy it. Even this gentleman who wrote me, whose father was very ill, was made to buy the oil. I don't know. It seems cowardly that Rick Simpson would hide overseas in Amsterdam, where everybody must have a good time, to not come back and fight and prove. If he has all the evidence that he says he does, if he has all the testimonials and all these people who have been cured of cancer by him, I'm sure that they would be thrilled to go into a courtroom and to bring up their diagnoses and to show that, yes, my doctor on the stand said, yes, I had cancer, and yes, this oil cured me. If that's what Rick claims he has, people like that, it's not fair. In fact, it's probably leading to more deaths from cancer that he wouldn't come back and prove it. So, I haven't heard or seen anything from him in a while, and there are numerous people with various concoctions that they make from cannabis, numerous types of oil, various creams and lotions and salves and all sorts of things that are made from cannabis, and I believe that they can maybe prevent cancer if you consume it on a regular basis, or it could treat various types of cancer. It all depends on how advanced it is and what type it is, but we just don't have the science yet. So I do believe in the pharmaceuticalization of cannabis in terms of finding cures for ailments, that if we could find a pill that cancer patients could take and it would cure their cancer with one pill, then I would support, science research industries going into cannabis. But I don't believe that that's the way it will work, because the motive for those sort of companies is to continually sell their pills, whatever they may be. So it's very hard to see how we can use cannabis to its full advantage, which I do believe can cure cancer. Maybe not now, maybe not in the forms that we have, but it definitely kills cancer. And it treats various other life-threatening and debilitating illnesses.
Well, I believe because I've been smoking it for 40 years, it's one of the reasons I don't have cancer. It's one of the reasons I don't get colds. It's one of the reasons I rarely get sick. But that's just my personal opinion. Now, let me ask you, I'm looking at your Cannabis Culture magazine, and you've got people that are putting together a very, very good website. And a few years ago, I was in the paraphernalia industry. I helped start the paraphernalia industry up at the McAlpin Hotel in New York. Worked there with Adam's Apple and Bernie Karp and graphics bongs, people like that. And I got out of it. I got out of it to do my own magazine. But shortly, just a few weeks after I closed down my company in the paraphernalia industry, Tommy Chong went to jail for buying a pipe factory, for owning a pipe factory, I believe. And Tommy Chong's a Canadian also, from Cheech and Chong, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, I see on your website here that Tommy Chong, he's out of jail now, and he's joined the British Columbia New Democratic Party and endorsed Dana Larson. Can you fill me in a little bit on that New Democratic Party, who Dana Larson is, and what Tommy Chong is able to provide in the way of assistance to you up there?
Well, Tommy Chong has been a very good friend and supporter of me and Mark for some time. He's always, most often, wearing the Free Mark shirt when he makes media interviews and such. And Dana Larson was the editor of Cannabis Culture for the majority of its existence in print. And he is an activist in Vancouver and BC and even Canada, well known to many up here for being on Pot TV, which was Mark's internet video station. That was one of the first video websites on the internet in existence, and the only one about marijuana, and quite a pivotal part of the movement, actually. But, you know, with YouTube, people forget about things like that. But Dana has been an activist for a long time, and he runs medical marijuana dispensaries here. And the New Democratic Party is typically regarded as the left-leaning, more socialist-type party, but they've also been the most accepting of cannabis law reform and ending prohibition, and we have a lot of allies with the NDP. So the Dana has just been working with them for a while and is going to the conferences and helping pass, you know, policies that are positive for our culture. And he's a very intelligent person. He's very creative. He wrote the Harry Pothead and the Marijuana Stone book, and he's working on the second one now. And he's a good person. So we asked Tommy Chong if he would endorse Dana for leadership of the NDP, because right now in our province, the governing party, the leader, you know, there's a lot of scandal and they've done a lot of bad things, and so the leader is stepping down. And the leader of the opposition is also, well, she was kind of brought down from within her own party. And the leader of the party I'm in is failing to do anything for the Green Party of BC. So out of the three parties that exist right now, our province is kind of leaderless at the moment. And so there are some races on for taking over both the Liberal and the NDP parties. So Dana is running to be the leader of the opposition, mostly not to win, because that's not going to happen with numerous controversies from before, but he's out there to get the message into the political discussion as these leadership races take place.
The hemp industry now, how is that being handled? How's it set up in Canada? If you can grow hemp in Canada and export the non-THC seeds and plant powders back to the United States, how are they growing it up there? How are they differentiate between the hemp and the marijuana?
Well, it's, you know, I'm not that familiar with it because it's so strictly regulated. There's not much here that I know of, but we do have big companies that sell hemp seed. It's easily available in stores. Mark and I got to see a hemp field in Saskatchewan out in our prairies when we did the farewell tour in 2009. There's a video on my YouTube account of that at youtube.com/JodieEmery, where Mark and I are in this enormous hemp field, and we discuss the hemp industry there. So I invite you to go see that video. But the industry is not nearly as robust as it could be if the regulations were relaxed a bit.
Now, I've told people, especially on my Wednesday THC Ministries show here, that they stole our #1 cash crop in America. They stole it 1939. They suddenly, you could pay for 200 years in the United States, you could pay your taxes with hemp. Our Encyclopedia Britannica was printed on hemp paper for 100 years. Our Constitution and our flag were created on hemp paper and hemp fabrics. If we could grow hemp in this country without the government looking over our shoulder, we could restore the whole economy and the manufacturing that has been, our manufacturing has been sent overseas under NAFTA and GATT. And I don't understand if the government is doing something, trying to do good for the people, instead of trying to, as Ayn Rand pointed out so well, the government has no control over honest citizens, so they have to make criminals out of us.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, there was a great article in, I believe it was The Economist magazine, about the imprisonment state of America. And it said basically that, there are enough laws on the book that every American citizen could be imprisoned without even knowing it, because there are just so many laws that exist now that everybody is violating them with, and so what a sad state of affairs when imprisonment of fellow man in order to create jobs is the only option, and that every American is a criminal in the eyes of their government. There may be a role for government, I believe there is, but it should be strictly to keeping the violent people off the streets, and that's all I can think of at the moment. That's, the defense of a country, to protect the sovereignty of a country.
Now,
government should be protecting the rights of the individuals against the force of many, or the force of corporations, or the force of a military. It shouldn't be. It seems to me now that the only thing government does is force you to do things you don't want to do and stop you from doing the things you do want to do. And that's, the problem we face right now. But as long as mankind has been around, we have had oppressors and rulers, and we just have to give our all to making freedom come that much sooner in that much many ways. That it's a difficult thing to be up against something so powerful. They have all the guns and they make all the rules, but as long as we just live a good life and be the best example we can be, and question authority as much as we can, then that is our service to this country and to mankind.
Have you got any more information on Roger Christie, on his case over there in Hawaii?
I haven't heard much that has happened, because they are just cruelly holding him without bail. So I haven't heard of much happening. I believe they'll probably just take their time to, deal with him. And it's very unfortunate. I believe that faith is an individual choice, and if they choose to use cannabis as a sacrament, as I know many people do, and with their sincere heart and soul, they use it as a sacrament, then, I believe they should be free to do that. So it's incredibly unjust, not only that he's been imprisoned for cannabis, which is one of the greatest mass sins of government, to imprison people for cannabis, but I believe that also to be imprisoned for his religious choices is just as bad as Marc being imprisoned for his political activities. So it's wrong, and I hope people will do what they can to help Roger.
Well, we're all trying to do what we can. And what else can we do, Jodie? I mean, you know, we're getting to a point where being forced into. They're even trying in the United States here. They're even trying to bring the government into your backyard if you plant a garden in your backyard.
Yes, I've heard about that, and they recently passed the food safety laws up here too.
That's right. This is all part of that Codex Alimentarius to standardize all of the laws and all of the control around the world.
Yep, it's true, and it's very tragic. You know, they're trying to eliminate our choices, and here in Canada, they just recently passed legislation that allow police to enter your property, the exterior of your property, I suppose, like your yard, your garage, any part not directly connected to the inside of your home, and they're allowed to search around for any information, go through your garbage and all that without a warrant, along with many other violations that are happening in Canada. I don't know if many people are aware of how bad our country is right now in terms of our freedom and, you know, our reputation around the world. You know, to the rest of the world now, we're a laughing stock. We're just a resource outlet. In fact, yesterday I was crying as I read a news article where the U.S. oil industry is pushing for the Canadian tar sands to continue with the massive $7 billion pipeline that will go conveniently down the corridor. Oops, I mean not the corridor. That's a conspiracy. You know, like
they're trying to warn anybody that if you're listening to Clay Douglas, he's a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, it's not conspiracy. Obama and Harper are meeting and signing a document to share our borders for security purposes, since now Canada is no longer a peacekeeper in the nation, in the world. You know, we are seen as the little buddy of the United States, just happily buying up all the tanks and Lockheed Martin. I can't even tell you how bad it is. They're building an enormous national defense base in Ottawa, which will be terrorist attack proof and all. You know, they've totally changed the face of our country. They're ordering brand new fighter jets and massive tankers, and our soldiers are slaughtering innocent people abroad, and that breaks my heart in so many ways, that Canada is no longer the country that most Canadians think it is. Most Canadians are not aware of the creeping drift of our government that has taken us into a horrific position aligned with the United States, with the worst of all worlds. And it's incredibly depressing to see not only our environment being devastated with these enormous pipelines down to the US, all the way down to Texas, and one all the way to the coast, to have oil tankers from China come into our mountainous oceans. We're going to have oil spills. There's all sorts of horrific things happening in Canada. Private prison industry is being introduced, you know, mandatory minimums, and Canadians are not aware of it because they're so ignorant and so slow to see the change happening around them. You know, Canadians have had it good. We've been a great country. We have been a leader in so many ways, and most Canadians think we still are, but we're not. Our government is extremely dangerous. We've got the religious radical right extremists from the United States working with our born-again Prime Minister and our born-again government.
I am just working on my next novel will be about that, and it's going to have more truth in it than fiction. Our religions, the religions have been established for thousands of years to keep the slaves in line, to keep the slaves happy, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, they do a lot of things just to make people think everything is okay. You know, the massive use of antidepressants, which not only poison people's minds who use them long term, as I did. 2 years now. I have not been on it after 2 years of weaning myself off. You know, but that stuff goes right into the water. So we have the mass drugging of everybody against their will, just in the water they consume, in the air they breathe. You know, people are being dumbed down. And when the government makes it harder to survive